Jimmy Neutron is a shithead, is not affiliated with Nickelodeon, Viacom, or any parent or subsidiary companies, and is recommended for viewers 18 and older. And that means no little boys. And especially, no boy geniuses. You know who you are. Hello, and welcome to Jimmy Neutron is a Shithead. I am your co-host, Connor Harrington.
And I am other co-host, Agent 5, and we are here live, super live, to give you the lowdown on Jimmy Neutron and his atrocities towards man.
That's actually not true. This is being recorded 2 days after the previous episode, which in turn...
Don't tell them that. It'll ruin our street cred and mysteriousness.
Of course, no. But this is important for the topic at hand. I want to discuss how we've been coping in a post-Empire Strikes Back world.
Jesus Christ. That... Yeah.
I think that you've had some of the best days of your life, and I've had... not the worst, but not good ones.
We've gone two completely different recovery paths.
Yeah, let's hear the good news first.
I've recently got into Boku no Hero Academia, or My Hero Academy. It's really good and has a lot of heart in it, and I've watched all the episodes. So that is a happy thing. And you?
So, in the time since watching Empire Strikes Back, I have had one nightmare about Jimmy Neutron. And one night...
follows! Okay.
And one night where I don't remember what I dreamed about at all.
Well, that's not that insidious.
My girlfriend called me in the middle of the night I had the Jimmy Neutron nightmare, because she was having trouble falling asleep. And I was in the middle of the nightmare, so when she woke me up, I was trying to find a topic of conversation to help her get by, and all I could think about was how much I hate Jimmy Neutron. Like, I kept trying to find something to talk about, but I just kept going back to Empire is the worst episode of any television show I've ever seen. I guess somehow that helped her, but to me, I felt like I was in hell. You ever have those dreams where you can't move or, like, turn your head or sit up or even talk?
I've never had a paralyzing dream. I've had dire situation dreams, I guess. Not good, but...
I had those as a kid, and this is the closest I've felt to one since. And it was especially terrible because I knew I was awake for it.
When you were talking to her, you were trapped at Jimmy Neutron's command.
I was. I felt enthralled.
Oh my god.
But thankfully, Empire Strikes Back is behind us, and we have closing in on only 2 seasons left.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, we do have... We're only 1/3 of the way through the show. And
okay, I just want everyone to realize that that's how you're measuring this, how close we are to the end.
I know.
That is the only way you're measuring this.
And I am dismayed to find that most of Season 3 is made up of 2-parters and movies.
We'll get over it.
But just think, like, then you don't get the 11 minutes where Jimmy crams in a bunch of evil things all at once. You get traditional stories where he actually is the hero.
No, we all know that he's doing it. Like, it is not the movie. He's still Jimmy.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I guess, like, you could say it's long-term evil and not as short-term since he's spiking it, but, it's still Jimmy.
I feel like the evils per minute are higher in 11-minute episodes.
I feel like, even in the episodes that we've watched today, it's still, like, even if he's not the main focus, his evils are glaring.
Of course, the main focus of today's episodes seem to be Hugh.
Disgusting, illegal, and immoral.
After being kind of absent for a couple episodes, Hugh has come back in full force in these episodes.
Jesus Christ.
Is being forced upon us center stage.
Okay, so, Maximum Hugh. This is the episode where Jimmy, like... Basically, he and his dad have to compete in the parent, guardian, whatever, obstacle, physical test course, whatever. And games is probably the right word.
A triathlon.
A triathlon where the last one is 90% of your points. And his dad is horrifically clumsy and inept, as usual, so he makes a fitness headband to make him able-bodied and coordinated, and then basically they do it. Turns out he was cheating, so they do the last event without cheating, and then in the end, Cindy's won, but everyone was cheating, but the Weezers, I think, and so everyone was cheating. And that's the moral of the story.
I know that episodes in the past have been very pro-cheating, and this is the first one that kind of calls out that that's not a good thing. Kind of is the operating word.
Yeah, because literally everyone except the Weezers who was participating was cheating.
This episode begins with an interesting role reversal where Cindy is getting hyped up by Miss Fowl for once.
Of course.
I feel like that's good for her confidence. Jimmy gets that way too often.
Yeah, he's constantly praised for his high grades and saving the town, which he shouldn't be praised for at all. So I guess it's nice for Cindy to, get some credit for her. Well, better than everyone else, except Jimmy. Ness.
Jimmy comes home to find that his dad is not, in fact, the sterling example of athleticism. In fact, he trips over a daisy. And he reveals that he has a bum leg, which I think might be a side effect of Jimmy making artificial legs to fix his paralyzed ones from his previous life.
I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, if he can't... he has no coordination, doesn't avoid the daisy, and then he's so bad at using them. It's only obvious that he's had these legs for a fairly short time. He is not adjusted to them, or they are pathetic legs.
Probably a combination of the two. So that's on you, Jimmy, for giving him shitty legs. We get a example of a typical Neutron meal, which is always horrifying.
They are all oh my god, usually they're a pile of the same food. But this time, when Jimmy's mom is, carrying food to, and she's I'm athletic, so why don't you use me? And then I don't fucking know why he doesn't break his dad's heart and just let...
I think she was busy, I think is what she said.
Yeah, and so what's she holding? She's holding some pig-based meal. Do you know how we can tell?
Still got a snout and tail built right into it. This is an unidentified meatloaf, but with a perfectly intact nose and tail. For some reason.
Terror.
And that's horrifying.
Terror.
It's disgusting. Why would they serve that? That's usually removed for a good reason, because it's not appetizing. So either she had an entire pig and carved around it to preserve the snout and tail, or
she added those parts to a meatloaf.
Yeah, either way, what the fuck, Judy?
This was odd decorating tips.
Hugh is eating a raw potato.
It looks like a rock.
It's not appetizing. I would probably eat the ass loaf over the raw potato, which he then chucks through a window to prove his athleticism.
Just curls and just... What was your plan, Hugh? Throw it down the hall, or, Hugh's pathetic athleticism is apparent.
So, Jimmy does what he always does in situations like this and goes to Goddard, who gives him good options, like accept your father, which Jimmy says is too mature, and then a bad option, which is cheat. And Jimmy says, I shouldn't cheat, but I'm far too blinded by my need to beat Cindy to care, so he cheats.
He knows his faults. I am far too blinded by my desire to destroy people.
He's never had this conniption about cheating before. Character growth or inconsistent writing? You be the judge.
He still does it, though. It's in his nature.
Also, Goddard then barrels the camera and cocks his head at us and says, here we go again. So I guess Goddard's on the ride with us. He knows that this is a tedious exercise in repetition, that this is going to pay out exactly the way it always does, and that he's just along to watch and judge. Much like Ike.
The disembodied spirit, while Goddard is a embodied spirit who's forced to watch, but knows along with us.
Jimmy then analyzes his dad's performance by, simulating a walk cycle?
Yeah, apparently, Jimmy, that he tells Vox to run. And, Jimmy's obviously cheating so he can win. And, this is another example of Jimmy's pro-cheating and, like, complete disregard for everyone else and using science, blah, blah, blah. But the note that we noticed the most was that in Hugh's walk cycle, it was a heart rate. It's like some sine or cosine curve, or it should be later, but Hugh's normal one are jagged lines moving back and forth, like, and forward and back.
Yeah, they overlap, and I swear they spelled a word which I couldn't identify. It might be in some archaic language, but the point is that
Hugh's bodily system is saying words of power and words of evil.
Yeah, Hugh's heart rate's in the fourth dimension. I don't know what else I can say. They end up at the race. Jimmy tries to bond with his dad.
No, he doesn't. It's manipulative.
Jimmy tries to put on a facade of bonding with his dad, who royally blows it by showing that he doesn't even know what he's here for, because he says, there's no I in team, spelling lesson. Idiot. Jimmy puts on a sweatband that will stimulate Hugh's nerves to make him a better runner. And I think that might be a callback to the nerve-stimulating dance instructor.
Ooh, from the episode where Crime Scene Investigation, where we see Jimmy experimenting with dancing through electricity with Carl. But this time, body enhancement.
So that might be the first example of continuity we have in these episodes, which scares me.
You know I don't believe in that. In Jimmy Neutron, I don't believe in that.
God, I'm so scared for season 2 and 3, where it's just all continuity all the time.
Jesus Christ, terrifying. But, like, so, again, immoral, no bodily autonomy for Hugh. Jimmy just slaps his untested electro-amp super soldier device, essentially, onto him.
But he's not alone in being a super soldier, because Carl's dad, who, much like Carl himself, seems to have glass bones and paper skin, reveals that his hair is actually a wig and that he has a metal plate in his skull, which is fair. That's, like, if you have been injured or if your skull hasn't grown in a way that you can, like, have this... I'm not sure. I'm not a fucking craniologist, but place in your skull, normal, fine. Carl's dad has some sort of weird technological insignia on his skull plate, which doesn't
It's a brand.
It doesn't seem... Is Carl's dad a cyborg?
Who else in this show has insignias? And does this kind of shit?
Well, Jimmy.
I think Carl's dad has been augmented by Jimmy.
Oh, so that he doesn't need to replace both Weezers. He's like, okay, Carl is expendable, but Mr. Weezer, I don't feel like cloning you each time. I'm gonna make you indestructible.
Yeah, or maybe he's like a complete fake. He's not even a cyborg. He's just a fake, like, dad for Carl. So that Carl, the test subject, will always have something to go back to pretend that he's a normal student.
That makes sense. He would keep Carl unaugmented because he represents a test subject, so he would need to be a normal human, but he can replace everyone else in Carl's lives with
the guardian of Carl.
So we get to meet Coach Gruber again, who is one of my least favorite characters in the show, and that's saying something.
He's so fucking weird. Like, all he does is be abusive. That's all he does. That's his character.
Well, that and posing.
Oh yeah, we've added that into his character arc now.
He just flexes. Sheen reveals that the writers don't want to reintroduce Mr. Estevez because they still can't decide if Sheen's Mexican. So instead, he brings in a vagrant.
Yeah,
who they call a vagrant.
Who Sheen calls a vagrant, so he finds essentially a homeless person.
Who survived Jimmy's reign of terror in Jimmy on Ice, apparently.
So either they were not homeless at the time, or they are have incredible fortitude or creativity in surviving the pain.
Which would be pretty... I would say no, given his performance in this triathlon. Absolutely.
Yeah, he doesn't do them, he just eats food that's there. I don't blame him, but, like, it's not impressive showing.
Maybe we're reading this wrong, and the fact that he's eating the food is how he survives. He'll take free food wherever he can get it and doesn't waste calories.
He knows that he'll need everything he can get to deal with Jimmy's wrath at some point. I understand.
Yeah, he's actually the best survivalist. Oh my god, I've completely misjudged him.
So the best survivalists in Sheen do horrible throughout the tournament. That's just, like, really true. But
there's no payoff to that joke.
Yeah,
Not like
there isn't. The joke with Carl is that, like, they're pathetic, but they weren't cheating, so they win by everyone else disqualifying. Speaking of, like, and then we see Cindy's part of the competition.
Yeah, Cindy's mom is apparently a super athlete, which I guess she's not for reasons at the end, but she does that thing where you think she's punching a punching bag, and then it's revealed to
be
a
speed
ham.
Bag. Yeah, it's a ham that they hung from a tree.
And Miss Fowl just seizes it and takes it back. I guess she thinks that it's still in a fit condition to serve. Maybe she's going to give it to Carl's mom for her meat.
I need the meat back. And this is after it being punched repeatedly, mind you.
Well, we do know that Carl will just eat entire, like carvings of ham.
He'll eat entire legs of ham for fun if he thinks he can get away with it.
The first contest in the competition reveals something that I speculated kind of as a joke earlier, but now know to be true, which is that Hugh has a freakishly long tongue.
Yep. Hugh has the ability to use his near reptile-like tongue to grab marshmallows while bending like the Matrix. And, like, this time it doesn't even have the excuse of being a dream. Like, he just has a freakishly long tongue compared to everyone else.
So, yeah, there we go. Carl wasn't just projecting his disgust at Hugh licking things out of gutters. He just does that. He
just does it with his disgusting, genetically engineered tongue, maybe? Because remember, he's already spoken that he wants genetic mutation for himself. So he can have webbed feet and duckbills.
So Hugh predictably wins the hurdles because of cheating.
Yay!
And Jimmy mocks Cindy because she's not cheating as hard as he is. If he just wanted to make his dad proud, he didn't need to go the extra mile and brag about it. That's on you, Jimmy. You just enjoy your ill-gotten gains.
If he does well, he will brag about it. And if he does well, he is cheating.
Which leads to an incredibly stupid scene where Cindy realizes that the sweatband is what's giving Hugh his great powers.
Because that's the only element of his costume that is any different.
Yeah, he's wearing the fucking sweater vest and tie at the race. It doesn't make any sense. But Cindy notices this and then sprays purple flurp onto Hugh. And, you know, sweatbands, they're not supposed to get wet, so it shorts out.
Jimmy,
which gives us...
Jimmy. Sweatband. No water. What? Would that have failed eventually if Hugh sweat enough?
That was guaranteed to fail.
Like, regardless, even if Cindy, like, didn't get that, if you didn't do...
It was incredibly stupid and gave us the scariest moment in this viewing experience.
Jesus Christ.
Where after Cindy sprayed Hugh with a can of purple flurp, this is not a joke, the screen went black and the audio continued, but there was no visuals, and then a red box appeared with Russian text, which Agent 5 translated to say, channel is missing video or encoded. So I guess the person who legally uploaded this to nicktoons.com, let me just say that it's a lot less scary knowing that was just like a no content warning, but I was genuinely scared that the Soviets were counter-hacking us.
They knew that Jimmy was a problem, so they were coming after us. And, like, granted, it was a spot in the video, so, like, during the totally illegal recording session of getting the video, we were terrified of the Russians, like, acknowledging Jimmy's evil and stealing of Soviet technology, so it was kind of scary.
Yeah, it was probably the most nervous I've been watching Jimmy Neutron.
It was like they finally was taking measures against him and his immense crimes and theft against them as well.
But if we get back to the episode...
We'll never get back to the episode.
we don't want to, because it's another boring episode, and this show that I'm learning is just boring altogether, except for the parts where Jimmy's evil. And the last event in this triathlon is inexplicably worth 90% of a team's score just to preserve tension, which would not work or happen.
No, so why are you even doing other things then?
The vortexes proceed to walk up to the neutrons and mock them, which doesn't make much sense because they walked in the opposite direction just a second ago. And this is the thing that happens in this episode a lot, where Cindy will walk off the stage, or Cindy will...
screen.
Yeah. Cindy will walk off the screen in one direction, then come back from that same side of the screen to make fun of Jimmy, and then walk off again. The vortexes are just walking around in circles this
They're keeping fit for when they have to kill them.
That probably explains why they're called the vortexes, because they just circle around one point in space.
And then after that, Hugh is like, has a flare of pride still left in him somewhere. And he goes, "You're going to be sucking loser soup through a straw."
So he's going to hospitalize them, I guess.
Or he wants to be drunk. Them, the losers, will be drunk by them. Sipped, if you will.
Hey, Jimbo! Don't let the vortexes gobble me up!
So the fucking race starts, and 1, Beard Guy exists in this episode.
Thank
2,
God.
Other background character, who's just, I can't even explain it.
There's just this one woman who's standing off near the sidelines, near the beginning of the race, and she's just going hog wild. She's just waving her hands in the air and shouting silently, and on the same, like, shitty loop, which, even though it's like a 1 second shot, repeats.
Terrifying.
Hugh crashes into a lemonade stand positioned just outside the blindfolded chariot race, which seems like...
that's the... Bloomberg Elementary's corruption and stupidity are on equal levels, not gonna lie.
Miss Fowl gets flung into the air, Hugh catches her and gropes her ass.
He's an ass man. Oh, no, wait. He established that he's a boob man. So this might have been accidental, but less than his ideal situation, but, you know.
Miss Fowl wasn't complaining.
Then we get to the end, and it's like,
complete nonsense is what the ending is.
Yeah, so like, at 1, everybody cheated, and, like...
No, we can't gloss over it that fast.
Okay, no, 1, everybody cheated, which is like, sure, for a student's race, whatever the fuck, why? 2... this madness.
Yeah.
Whatever was happening with Cindy.
Jimmy correctly deduces that the woman who's passing herself off as Cindy's mom is not her mom because she has completely different hair and eye color. Which, yes, that's fair. Cindy's parents do not look like her. But that was not the problem. The problem was that she had a zipper down her back. Jimmy unzips Cindy's mom, which sounds like a thing he would normally do, but in this case it's a costume. Revealing that it's actually Cindy's bodybuilder aunt, Susie. But that doesn't make any sense either, because she also has black hair.
And, like, not Cindy's color of eyes. So basically, even though Jimmy was right that they were wrong, Cindy's mom still doesn't look like her at all. And neither does her dad.
It doesn't get rid of the fact that neither of her parents look like her.
So this is, like, pertinent, I guess? So either Cindy's adopted and doesn't know it, or... like, I don't know. It's just really weird to think about.
Retroville probably has a milkman, right? Let's see if he's got blonde hair.
We gotta look over all blonde characters.
We've got to find who Cindy's real father is.
Jesus Christ.
So, Beard Guy is shocked at this revelation. I would be too. And they slowly go through the list of characters who have cheated. Spoilers, all of them. And at the very end of the list is Ike and his dad. And Ike's dad announces that they did play fair, in fact. But then Ike taps him on the shoulder, and then he just mumbles, "Then cheated." So Ike did not want to win a trophy if it was as a result of cheating.
Ike was the bulwark of fortitude and morals and this chaos of Jimmy Neutron.
Ike is a ghost, and Goddard is a ghost, and they both judge and monitor Jimmy at all times. But while Goddard is a force of chaos and destruction, Ike is a force of law and order who seeks to tame Jimmy and the rest of Retroville. He does not play favorites. Everyone must abide by the laws that are so set by this town, which Jimmy does own, but hey, them's the breaks.
He's an arbiter of law, while Goddard is an independent agent of chaos that's connected to Jimmy. No wonder Jimmy is so bad. Then we get the questionable... Okay. So, and then the Weezers go up and they're pathetic. Them's the jokes.
I have to wonder, the Weezer mom, we still haven't seen her yet, but she is the stereotypical Jewish mom, so I that really makes watching scenes like this, that puts them in a completely different context. Are the Weezers just one big neurotic Jew joke?
I don't know. I feel like if the mom wasn't like the Jewish joke, would just Carl and his dad be like? Are they suggestive of it? Because like we don't even see his mom in the movie. We see his dad barely, so I guess he wasn't born from it.
No, there are red-haired stereotypes in America. Now I don't know how much of those. I don't know the correlation between red-haired and Judaism, although I do know that there are red-haired Jewish people, but I think red-haired, like, clumsy, awkward people is a stereotype in its own. But I think that it would be less blatant were it not for the introduction of Mrs. Weezer.
Who is the very Jewish stereotype, as we will no doubt get.
It's not good. Jimmy Neutron's not good.
And now we are getting into Sleepless in Retroville, which we actually had a harder time finding.
Yeah, for some reason, Nick.com legal trademark did not have this hosted on it. In fact, all the episodes were out of order, and this one was omitted entirely. So we went to a different website, and this time we watched the intro, because normally the intros aren't listed. And as the intro was playing, I just wrote down, Jimmy Neutron bites the dust. Because I was like, wouldn't it be great if something just fucked with the intro and it started, I don't know, playing Nega Jimmy or some villain from Season 3 or something?
Negative Jimmy takes over. Finally, the revival that was meant to be.
This episode sucks.
Synopsis. Jimmy invites Carl and Chino for first sleepover. He makes an invention that makes pizzas, scary stories, and cool pillows, and that's it. And then they do those three features. Carl fucks up and mixes all three of them and makes an evil pizza. Insert them being scared and panicked, and then they beat the pizza by making it think it was day, and then we get the ending where it was all a dream. And then it was all the dream, and then it was all a dream, and then it was all the dream of the pizza.
Yeah, good fucking luck explaining that to a kid. That's an existentialist. Am I a human dreaming I'm a pizza? Or am I a pizza dreaming I'm human?
I dream of pizza.
This episode is fucking boring. It's supposed to be like a Halloween episode or a scary episode, but it's... The only thing scary about it is how it's dull. It starts with two shadows menacing the doorway. They have big old square heads. He opens the door. He's terrified. And it's Carl and Sheen with sleeping bags and pillows. So Hugh is scared of children. And responsibility. Because he assumes they're moving in. And this is the worst possible outcome for him.
Yeah, it's so... Hugh instantly assumes that children will invade his home.
I guess that's his attitude towards Jimmy, but he doesn't show it as much because, fix his legs, you know? We also get some disgusting, disturbing insight into the events of Hugh's honeymoon, which is not anything I wanted to know about, especially knowing that if he had it his way, it would be at the Zebra Carcass Suite.
It's gonna be a big surprise! Don't tell your mother.
Hugh pulled pranks and cried at his honeymoon, and apparently that was the first time he slept over at anyone else's house that wasn't his parents.
Yeah.
He's called that his first sleepover.
I don't know what's up with Hugh's mental state.
If you cry on your honeymoon, odds are you have not. I mean, there are good reasons to cry. Joy, relief of a lot of planning being finally over. But the way he said it, it was like he was crying for his mommy. So Hugh did not have good sexual education, and it was a traumatic experience for him, which probably explains why he acts out in fits of sexual rage and violence as an adult, because he associates it with a traumatic experience.
God damn.
I'm going to psychoanalyze Hugh as much as I goddamn please.
Okay. Jimmy makes this device. I don't fucking sleep over 10 billion fucker thousand or something. And basically it's this giant monolith, like, oven thing, and he just installs it in the middle of the room, and it just is stationary and makes no sense.
It recedes into the floor, but it's not covered by anything, so it is a fucking metal panel in the floor.
It's a monolith in the floor.
Which serves 3 pizzas.
It
serves 3 purposes. Pizza, stories, and pillows.
Yeah, Jimmy, you've made ray guns that do, like, shit like that. What the fuck? Like, this is so bizarre. Like the mere existence of this invention is so weird and confusing to me.
Yeah, it's not good. What's this about Carl wanting to be macho? Oh yeah, they get into a pillow fight right away. Carl tries to be macho. He fails. They immediately pass out because we know that these guys are lightweights.
They have no stamina for literally anything.
Judy immediately is a killjoy, which makes you wonder why she let them sleep over in the first place. But they came over well after dark, so maybe that's on them.
I can't blame her. I mean, she has to deal with Neutron, so she has to set strict boundaries, or else he will walk all over her.
This gives us one of the few sequences where it seems like the characters are genuinely friends with each other, which is a very rare phenomenon and cherished when it happens.
Yeah, basically they were just pillow fighting and eating pizza, and for once there wouldn't seem to be a lot of evil in there. Not a lot of shithead.
Just a lot of terrible pizza toppings on Carl's part.
Yeah, Carl has no palate whatsoever and will consume anything. I think we all know what we're alluding to, but we'll skip it over this time. And so,
absolutely.
And then he was like, "Your mother told me to tell you two to everyone to shut the fuck up." But sees the fish anchovy pudding fudge pizza and is like, "Ooh, my favorite," and walks out.
Yeah, he's not a very strict parent.
He's easily bribed.
He needs Judy. We were both taking notes this one time, or like I was taking notes and you were like dictating them out and be like, this is something to take note of. And we both said verbatim, Hugh is easily bribed.
He is. He's pathetic and has no moral backbone. Like, also, it's evident that he pays everybody if he can. He paid Brobot for injuring him.
He paid scalpers for free tickets.
He is incredible with bribes, and it's only money driven. We get Jimmy doing like fucking Exorcist as he rises from the floor to a seated position, and it's great. It's the only time like we see him embrace his evil self.
Yeah, I just was about to write down Jimmy has dramatic evil lighting following him, but then the next shot we see he has a flashlight, and I'm like,
damn it.
You win this round, DNA Productions.
You're keeping it under wraps slightly more than usual.
They bust out Dr. Dark, which is a disembodied face that is produced by the machine to tell stories.
Yeah, the hologram that makes scary stories, apparently. And
terrible stories, he says. They say it's terrible as in scary, but it's actually terrible, like, lousy, because it doesn't have a story. It's just like, there was a monster and it ate children.
No! She is the monster.
They turn off Dr. Dark right away. They go to sleep.
Wait.
Carl wakes up.
Carl, after eating like 7 slices of pizza, says he needs more. And after like slapping and like groping Jimmy, he decides he'll just tell the machine to make it himself. And what does he do?
He produces a combination of the functions of the machine, so he creates an evil pizza and an evil pillow. What I want to know is why he didn't create a pillow pizza, but that's never answered.
An evil pillow pizza. Okay, Jimmy, why is it possible for things to leak into each other? What the...
You could have programmed it so that they were mutually exclusive, like, oh, you press Dr. Dark, I'll cancel that order for pizza. Oh, you press pillow, no more Dr. Dark. But no, they can just, if you just press two of them at the same time, it will immediately blue screen and produce a hell monster.
Yeah, another thing is that, like, Dr. Dark is... Man, it makes no fucking sense. So the Dr. Dark becomes the pizza monster and chases them around. But, like, what is Dr. Dark? Dr. Dark is a hologram robot priced by Jimmy, who apparently is very, like, emotional or, like, a good storyteller. So clearly this is someone's soul that he harvested or found to make Dr. Dark. But then at the end of the episode, it turns out that I just have to explain this if we're talking about Dr. Dark, that it's all a dream, but it's all Dr. Dark's dream, evil pizzas in another pizza dimension.
Yeah, where there are women pizza who wear lipstick and cat pizza. That doesn't make much sense, but okay.
Nope, I got nothing.
This episode was like running a minute short, so they just threw in a bunch of pointless comic relief scenes. Like, they run around in what's supposed to be a Scooby-Doo chase, but it's just one static shot of them running back and forth down a hallway. And I miss the camera angles from the movie so much more now.
It's like moving cameras. We just can't afford them, so we have to suffer.
There's a establishing shot of Jimmy's house at night, but it's supposed to look... I think it's supposed to be showing that time's passing, but it's just as dark before the shot as after. So it's just like, oh yeah, here's a dog barking. Bark, bark. Okay, next scene. That doesn't mean anything. Then they need to distract the pizza, even though they don't. So Sheen and Carl do some shtick, pretending that it's morning.
Yeah, so Sheen does a radio announcer shtick with a microphone, wherever he got that. And then Carl sings and is in agony and hurts us as well, because the song makes no sense and hurts us.
Jimmy tricks the pizza into thinking the sun's rising using a flashlight and glasses. Okay, continuity, I guess, because he had the flashlight earlier. Whatever. They trap the pizza in his box because he's scared of the sun. Then they actually open the box in the sunlight. It kills the pizza. Carl says, "Let's eat the pizza,"
Jesus
showing that
Christ, he just wants to eat the if it had a soul in it, he's into it.
Yeah, he will eat any of his enemies. It's how it gets so strong, and by strong I mean paste.
Incredibly
paste
weak.
Boy.
It's because Jimmy doesn't often have actual souls of his dead victims. It takes them for
Maybe
itself.
that's why. Oh, I get it now. The reason that Carl is a cannibal is because each Carl is a hollow husk. Like, it's got the body of Carl, but the soul has been expended. So they're trying to consume other people's souls to feel whole again.
I mean, it's shown that Jimmy can't. I mean, if Jimmy has, for all of his personalities that he creates, he needs actual other souls, since he can't program that. It would make sense that he can't remake that in Carl if he keeps cloning him, since if he did that, he would just get his own souls. Keep harvesting Carl's, I guess.
So Carl's cannibalism is perfectly the result of Jimmy's.
I can't believe
this
good job this episode.
This episode fucking sucks.
It does. It's so shitty. And then there's it's everyone's dream, and then it's the pizza's dream. And it's the pizza's dream.
It's the pizza's dream.
Make room for Daddy-O. How would I describe this episode? It involves Hugh. It involves Hugh and negative Hugh. That's all I have to say.
It's one of those episodes that feels like they were stalling for time because it was slightly too long for one, but not nearly long enough for two.
Well, yeah, that's about right. We see, but that just means we get to see more of negative Hugh. So there's a father-student or father-child talent show that they have to do, except for Sheen and Carl. But and so Cindy and Libby's parents are doing like actual acts, and Hugh basically wants to go on stage and do the hokey pokey, but basically involves ducks, and it's incredibly embarrassing. And so Jimmy's like, fuck this, and decides the only course of action that's acceptable is to zap Hugh with the D-Dorkinator, making him cool. Hugh becomes incredibly cool and musically talented, but basically...
No, he's not.
No, he doesn't. And he becomes cool, and then decides that I don't care about my family anymore, fuck off. And then Jimmy puts himself in danger in order to, re-trigger his parental instinct to snap him back, which shouldn't work at all, but it somehow does. And Sheen and Carl fuck up, putting Jimmy in actual danger, and then Hugh maybe saves him, and that's about it. And everything's back to normal, and Hugh and Jimmy learned a lesson, maybe, and does the shitty duck dance with his dad at the talent show.
This episode makes me hate Hugh. Every Hugh episode makes me hate Hugh.
Every episode with Hugh makes you hate Hugh.
Miss Fowl is hosting the talent show. She says that this is the 82nd annual one, and that she remembers the first one like it was yesterday. So I guess she's been here for at least 82 years.
What the fuck?
They built the school around Miss Fowl.
What?
Like Miss Bitters.
She said she's been teaching for that many years. So what was she just around 82 years? Is she 82 years old?
I have no fucking clue.
That's. Is she like a terrible sexual spirit that's just trapped within the confines of the school?
Hold on.
Like a monster.
1990. Okay, let's pretend this takes place in 2003. Okay, let's see. Give me a second. 2003 minus 82. So she started teaching at least as early as 1921. When was Thomas Edison alive? He died in 1931. Miss Fowl probably knew Thomas Edison while he was alive. There was no reason why they needed to hook up through time travel. She probably fucked him at one point.
The immortal spirit Miss Fowl who's just been... Like, what the hell? That's terrible continuity. Doesn't she say at some point that she's like, I've been teaching for 22, 26 years or something?
Yeah. But then Abercrombie kind of throws a wrench into that, and this episode shows that they just don't give a fuck about the time.
Maybe, honestly, maybe the only reason she's allowed to keep going is because she's like some shitty monster, and she's only drains energy from her students. It's just she has to teach or else she'll dissipate.
Teaching's the only thing that keeps her going.
Teaching is the only thing that keeps her going. She misses all of her students except Sheen.
Unless Yokians are involved. The Yokians hooked her up with a child soul synthesizer.
or maybe she just realized she wanted to be free.
She wanted to die free instead of living in a miserable existence.
Jeez, Empire Strikes Back is bad. Remember, it was bad.
Fuck you, Eggpire. Libby gets bisected
horizontally.
as the episode begins. Yeah, not vertically, as our Lord and Savior Elmer has done. Praise the fruit. Mr. Willoughby shows up and he says fabulous, and he stands on his tippy toes and he does that limp wrist thing. And I'm like, so is he gay, or does he want to fuck Miss Fowl, or do you not care and you're just going to do both?
I think the writers just will allow him to do whatever since they just want to make that joke.
Yeah, it's not good. Hugh drags Jimmy into the talent show, which he's desperately trying to get out of.
Then he fakes an injury. Oh no, I sprained my ankle.
And Hugh's like, I don't give a fuck. The public needs me. And then he runs out on stage anyway. So keep that in mind.
And then he does his super shitty dance, and everyone's in, because it goes on for so long, and it's so bad. Blah. But then we get some relief from our suffering, because when he's done, the sign swings and hits him.
And Miss Fowl and Principal Willoughby applaud Hugh's injury.
The only time the four of us will ever be on the same page, when Hugh is injured.
Somehow Jimmy gets knocked unconscious. I don't remember how. Maybe, does he pass out from embarrassment?
I think he, falls on the ground or something.
And then there's a POV shot of Cindy and Libby, like, kneeling over Jimmy and mocking him, and I felt like I was being tortured.
I did too. It's like seeing any Jimmy Neutron character that's maybe not Sheen, I guess. Like, I can't, or maybe not Sheen or Judy. Any point of view shot that sees any other character head up close is terrifying and makes you feel like your soul is being sucked from your body. Yeah. Do you remember when Brittany was sucking the camera into her mouth?
Oh, that's right.
Same feeling.
Jimmy, like, talks to Goddard, because we haven't used that plot point enough yet. He suggests dismantling Father's Day, and he said that'd be too much effort. So Jimmy could smash the patriarchy if he wanted to, but he won't.
He just says, just dismantle it. No, I'd have to go to Washington. Like, no other qualms. Just, I don't want to go. Like, can we do it in Retroville?
I'm wanted there. I'm a war criminal, Scoop. He
stole a lot of shit from them, so if he goes back, like, it'll be even more dangerous for him.
Goddard also suggests that he... What was it?
Accepts his father's existence?
No, I think that was... No, you're getting the episodes crossed. That was in the Maximum Hugh episode, because he's basically have the same plot.
Oh my god,
He's like, get adopted
by a famous magician - entertainer.
And he just looks at the camera and goes, too sitcom-y, and then raises his eyebrows at us. And I'm like, you're not my friend, Jimmy. You do not get to talk to me.
Ever. That's just what's happening. Just Jimmy, don't you dare attempt to be friendly and all. We know what you did.
So the de-dorkinator that Jimmy comes up with in like one hot minute,
it's
freezes the brain's cortex.
It's essentially like the way he describes it. It fucks up with parts of your brain, allows the other parts to work, I guess, and basically it's the most irresponsible thing ever. And Jimmy has no idea how brains work. We've already probably established that at some point, and so he should basically be dead. And the left side of his body doesn't work. There's something about that level.
He invents the lobotomy beam, which I really wish I had the lobotomy beam when we were watching Empire.
So then at night, he fucking zaps Hugh or whatever, and then to his dismay, Hugh is the same in the morning. So his device has failed, and we'll have to accept that.
Even though he set it to maximum implosion.
How do you do that? What do you don't... When even messing with your father's brain, you don't even test it. You just set it to max and hope it's enough.
Implosion!
Fuck you, Grandma.
He created an event horizon inside Hugh's skull.
Maybe it'll fix him. Who knows? It's Jimmy Neutron's. If he thinks it'll work, electrocuting your dad will make him cooler.
So Hugh just constantly guilts Jimmy into take him to the Father's Day thing, even though I guess he's obligated to do so. And I just said out loud, hypnotize him into thinking he went. Problem solved. But he doesn't.
He's like, oh, I sure don't. This is going to be the greatest day of my life, me and my son. But Jimmy, you already have a device for that.
Yeah, it's not like he has moral qualms about hypnotizing his dad, because he does it anyway in a more permanent and horrific way. Maybe it's because his hypno ray got smashed, and he can never build an invention twice, because in this episode, the de-dorkinator gets smashed, and even though he built it in, again, a hot minute.
Like with a flashlight and like a bunch of sticks with lights on them.
Yeah, he cannot rebuild it to re-dorkinate his dad.
To de-dorkinate. So basically, Jimmy complains to his cronies how his dad is not cool, even though it should have worked. And flat note, Sheen is stealing things from Carl so he can eat them, which is pretty funny to me.
His dad is also dangerous because Mr. Estevez is apparently banned from the Father's Day thing due to an unspecified chainsaw incident.
That's a hell of an incident, Shane. I'm kind of interested.
But then it turns out the whole thing was a delayed reaction because Hugh's skull is just so thick compared to a normal human's.
I think it was his cranium was too... maybe it was just too shitty. They had to wait a while.
It was It was expo speak for he's a dipshit with a thick skull.
Cool Hugh is like Fonzie, but a dick. And I don't know.
He shows up on a motorcycle, which he sold his car for. So that's going to be a thing, I guess. Don't worry, Hugh's a car salesman, I guess. So he shows up and is cool, which I guess just involves being a asshole who torments children. He kicks them out of their seats, even though there was a bunch of empty seats right next to him.
Yeah, he just tells Butch to, like, move, because that's my seat. And then, of course, Hugh has a musical number.
Which sounds good for the first 10 seconds, and then goes on, and then they reuse it, and then they reuse it again, and then I want to die.
Cool this can be. I don't know, they reuse it later a lot. It's pretty funny how much, like, if they have one song, they have to use it as much as possible.
There is a line thrown in about frozen pie, which I thought was kind of clever, because it showed that Hugh was just turning his old hobbies into things that were cool, but then later on, he just completely renounces his old hobbies, so fuck me for giving the show any credit.
Yeah, it could have been. But we do show that, despite Hugh being cool, he's still technically Hugh, because he didn't learn how to play any instruments, so when he plays the guitar, it just bursts into flames.
Yeah, he's got pyrokinesis.
It just, like,
and I guess
plays it, it just lights on fire. I think it's the music rejecting him.
Betty, Quinlan, and Brittany, the most important character in the show, according to the wiki, show up, and I just started booing them. Because I hate Betty because she's kind of a horrible character, and I hate Brittany because someone out there insists that she's the main character of the show.
Or like a comparable character to, like, Libby and Cindy.
And I just...
As a result, we just can't stand her anymore.
She's so ugly, and she ate the camera that one time. Nick flees the scene, seeing that a new alpha male has asserted itself in the area.
Yeah, he'll have to wait and try to be subordinate or take the shot being a sneaky male. Which is hilarious to me, since we get to see Nick at a point of vulnerability in his coolness.
Nick was a woefully underdeveloped character, and I would have loved to see this have some follow-up.
Rip Nick.
Oh, this is pretty fucking bad. Libby says that she thinks that Hugh is cool, and he says, "You got it, soul sister," and I'm like...
And then, never says that to anyone else. Oh my god.
So Hugh is just co-opting black language and only using it with... Yeah, he thinks he's got that privilege. No, go, Hugh, stop. Hugh.
His racist thoughts are surfacing now that he's uninhibited. Only now are his extremely racist undertones starting to develop.
Hugh probably thinks that Eminem is the best rapper ever. Hugh is the protagonist of Pretty Fly for a white guy.
Oh my god.
Hugh thinks that Goya is a spicy food.
Okay, question. What is water cycle?
Yeah, there was a glitch in this totally legal viewing, trademark, of the Jimmy Neutron Fun Time legal, where he's like, "Wow, we're on a motorcycle," but it skipped, and we just got to hear Jimmy say, "Water cycle," which made me laugh a lot harder than anything in the show on purpose.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. Hugh and all of his, coolness is introduced to his mom, and she's doesn't care at all, and is enthralled by his change, and excited about his being a dick to children. And he says, "Oh, you like what you see, baby? I got more under the hood."
Oh, I'm glad that Hugh's insatiable sexual appetite hasn't changed.
Especially in front of children. Jesus Christ. And then the song repeats, the song repeats a lot, just demonstrating how cool Hugh is, and he's as cool as can be. Anyway.
Sheen and Carl get into a fight about who's Jimmy's dad's biggest fan. I then paused the playback and opened a shitty YouTube poop music video of that scene because I was so bored I needed to watch anything else.
You're deteriorating.
Then the song plays again.
Jesus
There's a
Christ.
montage.
So basically, Jimmy learns, and like the montage is Jimmy being snubbed by his father, and he starts to feel repercussions and is worried. And Jesus Christ.
Then there's a Japanese man named Corgi Shimatsu.
Yeah, then there's Corgi Shimatsu. He shows up later. I think this is the first introduction to him. He's just this incredibly enthusiastic Japanese man with the name Corgi Shimatsu.
I don't think that Corgi is a real Japanese first name.
No, it isn't. You think the fucking writers actually bothered to look at a Japanese last name? No. You know what goes good with the Shimatsu? Corgi.
He's only half
dog.
He's only half Japanese. He's got a white mom. That's how he got a first name, Corgi.
And so basically, he's a stepping stone that tells Hugh you can be a superstar. And is like, I don't even know what to think of that character. And then Hugh abandons his family. Or that's his intent.
Yeah, he tries to. At the Neutron household, they're eating a plate of hot dogs, which they've eaten before, so that's a reused prop. But also, it's a plate of fucking miniature hot dogs. Why? I
don't think anything will beat the fucking, like, the cylinder of cranberry sauce.
Yeah,
that one, that is like a peak dinner animation for me, honestly.
The Neutrons have the worst food, but cranberry sauce plain is probably the best.
Still in the cylinder. They didn't even mush it or anything.
Jimmy reminisces about him getting along with his dad, and we see that Jimmy as a kid looked exactly like his grandmother as a baby. So either his grandmother had an enormous bulbous head as a kid and grew out of it, or they just reused the granny baby asset.
What do you think?
Who gives a fuck?
You be the judge. And then we get the part where, like, it's, because Jimmy was like, Mom, I think Dad's changed. No shit, it's your fault. And is like, oh, he's fine. It's not like anybody tampered with your father's brain or anything. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then Hugh walks through the door, and Judy made a pie, and he refuses the pie. And this, like, moment is of complete shock.
I think we just gotta play it verbatim.
Who wants a hot slice of pie?
I ate at the club.
Dad turned down pie? This is serious. Maybe he's a cake man now. Or tarts. Oh, goodness. It's off to the kitchen with me.
Judy Neutron prides herself in her baking ability, and any failure on her part causes her submissive side to kick into high gear.
It's a very generous read of that. Because all I saw was Judy Neutron saying, back to the kitchen with me. God damn it. Jimmy just should have zapped his dad with the D-Dorkinator. He doesn't. He explains the D-Dorkinator. So Cool Hugh smashes that.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
then,
no, but that's so stupid. He's such an idiot. First he, like, mentally fucks with his father. And then, like, if you're gonna turn him back, just turn him back. And he's like, Dad, you've changed. You have to, I use this device and now I'm gonna change it back. And then, like, Jimmy, just, if you were regretting it, like, why'd you tell him? Or just zap him and it's fine. And then Hugh smashes it easily because Jimmy's pathetic.
So this is supposed to be the moment of recognition where Jimmy realizes that he has changed his father in some irreparable way. But it really isn't, and instead it's the shittiest moment in the episode, because they do a callback to a scene. I shouldn't quote things so quickly in a row, but I think that this scene just needs it. Here's Hugh, before the mind control.
No, that's too bad. Well, don't worry, son. I'll carry on by myself.
No, Dad. Let's just go home.
What? And let our public down? Oh, no. The show must go on.
Here's Hugh, after the mind control.
I dig what you did to me. In fact, I want to be permanently cool.
Dad, don't!
Old Daddy is bye-bye, baby. I'm going all the way to the top. Concerts, movies, maybe an animated series. Nothing is going to stop me, kid.
He's the same fucking person.
He didn't
change at all.
Jimmy has a dad who gives no fucks about him.
The only reason that he could get away with abandoning Jimmy is because that he had a public to get away to. He would have done that if he could. Fuck you, Hugh. Fuck you and your stupid PMCs trying to resist Big Boss and shit.
He has no familial attachments, and only has a lust for power and fame. But then...
Jimmy does...
But I think his plan was... So after he reawakens his parental whatever fucking instincts, that changes him back, and then once he did, that affected all of his cool ability. So at that point, he had no way to, like, return to his public persona of coolness, so he had to go back into his familial life after his cool ability was taken from him.
Hugh is a coward. I don't like him. But the plan that Jimmy had to reawaken this is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, like, one, this shouldn't have worked. Two, this plan was stupid and shouldn't have worked.
There's a scene where he's explaining, okay, we need to drop me from a balcony, so Hugh will try to catch me, and that will reawaken something primal in him. Carl pulls out a cheese ball he's been keeping in his anus. Supposed to be a pocket, but he doesn't reach for a pocket.
That he's been keeping since he was 3. I don't know why they made this joke. Carl just has really weird objects that he keeps in his ass. And
because this episode was running short. we had 2 extraneous songs, and they didn't get it to 24 minutes.
So we had to, like, get the part where Carl pulls the cheese ball out of his ass, and then Sheen steals it and eats it, and Sheen... I basically don't care. Sheen's dead. We have a dead Sheen. After he ate the ass cheese ball. Kaput.
Fuck off, Sheen.
But before he dies, Jimmy has a plan. I have made a microfiber net, and it'll catch me, so I will not be in danger. It's just so thin it's invisible. And then he gives it to Sheen, and of course it doesn't work. And they're both, and Sheen's such a fucking idiot, and Carl is also such a fucking idiot.
Like, it would have worked if Jimmy had just put it on, I don't know, the watch that he gets sometimes between shots. It'll be there, and it won't be there. It'll change. Don't worry about it.
But if it's there, it'll work. Since you can just activate it before you fall. Sorry, I'm so angry.
But he instead gives it to Sheen and entrusts him to press it on 3, even though he says to press it on go later. Fuck me, I guess. And Sheen has a nervous breakdown, probably because he's dying from the toxins in the cheese. That actually is a much better explanation than just bad writing. He's dying. These are his last moments before the neurotoxins got him.
At least he had a purpose, but he failed, but he had a purpose.
So Jimmy's scared he's gonna die from falling, like, 1 story. Hugh catches him, but not really.
No, he doesn't catch him. He runs towards Jimmy, and because he's so physically inept, as we've established in Ultra Hugh or whatever, he doesn't really catch him as much. Like, his junk hits Jimmy, and then they both fall down. So basically, Hugh just shoves his, like, pelvis in front of Jimmy, and then Jimmy falls and, like, shatters it.
Yeah, there was nothing in there that would have cushioned Jimmy's fall. I didn't mean to make that sound like Hugh had a tiny dick, but let's roll with it.
So Jimmy broke his leg. Hugh has a shattered pelvis. A tiny dick will never be functional again.
They do the chicken dance, except it's the duck dance, actually. And it's supposed to be a heartwarming moment where we learn something, but we don't, because...
I don't know. Jimmy likes his dad now. I don't know, even though he's still shitty.
What was the lesson we were supposed to learn from this episode?
Hugh is not the worst person ever, and we should tolerate him.
That's a bad lesson, and that will get children killed. Try again.
If we can stop Fonzie, we have to.
That's a much better lesson. I like it. I would have gone with something more traditional, like, you're supposed to accept your parents for who they are, and I guess who they are is someone who will abandon you to be a one-man show.
Given the slightest ability to.
Like, he does a one-man show. It was supposed to be a father-son, or, like, kid-son. I don't know, like, parent-child. No, it's like a father-child thing, because it's Father's Day, I guess.
What? Yeah, sure.
Point being, Hugh left Jimmy to have a concussion because the public demanded him. Hugh didn't learn a lesson. Jimmy, this is fake deep. You're an idiot. You should have died from that fall.
Yeah, you should have died. You're just zapping your parents for fun and for no reason, and then, like, you don't give a shit because you have no...
Making us look at their feet.
He just does no disregard for his parents' safety or zapping their entire brains. Oh my god. Like, yeah, fake. Honestly, I think he just wanted that Jimmy, even though he, like, is abused by Hugh regularly, he still wants him for some reason in his life, so he tried to de-dorkinate him.
Fuck me.
Fuck Hugh.
Hugh is... Alright, I've got to ask you, not on a moral level, but on a level of who you would rather watch. Who is the worst character, Jimmy or Hugh?
So you're asking who is more entertaining to watch?
Which gives you a better feeling watching them?
Who has the moral high ground?
No, not moral high ground and not who's funnier, but rather who makes you less uncomfortable when they're on screen.
I like how you phrase it.
It's a very specific emotion I'm going for.
Oh man, I don't know. I can live with Jimmy and his evilness, but like Hugh's a monster. He makes me uncomfortable just existing. So Jimmy better Hugh.
Maybe this will be like a Bizarro episode where Hugh is the shithead and Jimmy is the extraneous background character.
Maybe.
Well, you've heard it here first. We've got to dismantle this PMC, and if there are any secret agents or members of Foxhound that can infiltrate Retroville to do so, we're asking for you.
God, you're making the Huey jokes from Metal Gear Solid. Don't forget, the Russians, remember, we're okay with watching this, so we're not doing anything. You should focus your activities directly on Jimmy. And not just us.
Yeah, stop counter-hacking us, okay? Just because we're digital pirates sailing the digital seas to watch original official uploads of Nickelodeon. I'm Connor Harrington. Yodi 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 yodi.
And I'm Agent 5.
It was your stupid fault this happened. Guess what? Our outro was a misquote. And there was no all in there, but we're doing it anyway.
It was your stupid happened. It was
no,
your
fuck
stupid fault all this happened.
Much better. What's this one say here? Don't hurt Mama! What was the context behind that one?